Yo, shalom, shalom. What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's doing well. I'm definitely doing well. Hope everybody's doing well right now. And we're gonna get started here just a second. So bear with us here just a second. Shalom, 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 everybody. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. What's going on? Hope it seems like everybody got the notification, things like that. So hope everybody's being blessed. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to get started here in just a second. As soon as everybody is able to log in, and going to be blessed. We're going to have a good time. We'll have a good time. We're going to try to knock this out. We're going to try to knock this out. We're going to try to knock this out. Not going to be on, try not to be on here too long, but give everybody a chance to jump in. We're going to try to go ahead and try to knock this out and get some understanding here. And again, I think it's going to be it's going to be a blessing to get some understanding about what we're talking about here, which is a interesting conversation that I think a lot of people, it's interesting because I think a lot of people with this conversation, I think it's something that a lot of people need to have. I think it's definitely when you first come into studying the Torah and things like that, a lot of people have these questions. One of the main questions that oftentimes that I get or I hear about or people are conflicted about is talking about when sisters come on their menses or their monthly or their cycle. And many interpretation of that kind of deals with the cycle and should they separate, and people ask these questions, well, how can you keep all the Torah and all these things? And then they say you break one, you break all, and things like that. And one of the common questions that's often that people ask is, well, I know you're not keeping Torah because you're married, and then when you come on, your wife come on her monthly cycle, do you have a separate house for her? Because according to Torah, if you're going to keep the law, you have to keep the monthly cycle because she's unclean, for 7 days. And if you don't have a place for her and you staying somewhere else, and she's not staying anywhere else, then you're breaking Torah. These are the type of things that we get. So I think it's very important to look at this and get an understanding of this so that we can all be on the same page and have an understanding of what's really going on in the scriptures, because a lot of people don't really understand things, and they kind of throw out things because of what they've heard or try to combat things and really don't understand the culture. Then there's a lot of other things that is added to it. A lot of people don't understand that when they make statements about keeping Torah, and if you break one, you break all, and if you don't keep all the Torah, a lot of people don't understand that within the complexities of the law and within the law itself, every law is not assigned to everybody within Israel. And so I think that people don't understand that, and they seem to think that because they haven't read the Torah, they haven't read it or haven't gotten an understanding that there's certain laws for the priest that was not for the commonwealth of Israel. And so when you don't understand that, you make these fatal errors and you try to pass judgment on myself and other people without properly understanding the cultural context of the Israelites, and then not understanding the cultural context of the priests, not understanding that there's a high priest, and then there's also of those of the tribe of Levi that were not considered high priests, that many people of the tribe of Levi that were not directly the direct bloodline of Aaron. So if you don't understand these things, then you're gonna throw out stuff. And unfortunately, we have so many people just blurting out stuff, throwing out stuff that they really don't have a kind of an understanding about it. And they just kind of go on what was told to them, what was taught to them, what was passed down, and not really understand that there are different structures within Torah that applies to the priests and that don't apply to the Benjamites, don't apply to Judah, don't apply to Manasseh, don't apply to many other tribes. Okay, so it's important for us to understand that, and we're going to look at that really. We're going to get into that. And so I'm going to share my screen because this is a conversation that's going to really help everybody. This conversation is going to help everybody, and really understanding what's going on within the text, so that way you don't continue to pass incorrect judgment, or you really don't understand and you just blurt out stuff or say things that may be detrimental to yourself. And when it comes down to dealing with the scriptures. So today we're going to talk about the monthly menstrual cycle, in which is one who is keeping Torah, are they transgressing the law when it comes down to a husband and a wife staying in the same home? And when she comes on her monthly, are you breaking Torah because she's still staying in the same house? Many people say, some people are kind of in a place where they just like, well, I'm not going to touch her. I'm going to go to, another room, or, things of that nature, and really fail to really understand really what's going on. And so, and I understand some people do it out of a good heart, and they really, love the Most High, and they're really trying to do the right thing. But I think sometimes you can, just by doing the right thing or thinking you're doing the right thing, sometimes you can put your family and yourself in bondage by not properly understanding what the text is actually saying. So the question that is put in place is, or the particular passage that many people, either who are against Torah or for Torah, those who are for Torah, they use this passage as a divider or separating from each other as spouses when the monthly cycle comes. Also, those who are against Torah, they use a particular verse to basically say, well, you're not keeping it because your wife doesn't have another dwelling place when she comes on, when it's time for her cycle. So I think it's important for all of us to get an understanding of what the text is actually saying. What is the Most High actually instructions is he given to the children of Israel to be able to function as a community? And so this is the thing we have to understand. This was given to children of Israel through Moshe, or through Moses, for the community, or for Israel to be able to function as a society, and not only that, be set apart from everyone else. Okay, so let's look at this so we can get an understanding. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go to the particular passage. I'm going to be looking at from the CJB, so that way we can get an understanding. Now, we're starting at verse 19 because 19 is the particular passage scripture that is in question, or is used for or against those who keep Torah. And so Leviticus 15 and verse 19. Now, you notice here, I have in parentheses new discussion. Why? Because in verse 1 through 18, you're going to see in 1 through 18, the conversation is talking about one thing, but it also goes into a new conversation. It's within the same construct of dealing with righteousness and being holy when it comes down to dealing with the cycle, but also at the same time, it begins a new conversation within the same conversation or within the same context, but a new conversation of instruction. So let's look at this, okay? Because I want y'all to really grasp this and understand this from this totality. In Luke chapter number 15, Leviticus 15 and 19, okay? It says, if a woman has a discharge and the discharge from her body is blood, she will be in her state of Niddah. Okay, Niddah means separation. She'll be in her state of separation from her husband, because at this point in time, if the discharge is blood, in which is her monthly, that she is considered unclean. This is the reason why there were no women in the temple during the time. If women didn't have a cycle, I'm pretty sure that the Most High would have used them for temple duties. But because they do have a cycle, they are not qualified to be used in the temple during the time when we had a temple, okay? During the time when we had a temple, because someone has to keep the fire burning in the temple. There has to be sacrificial duties. There have to be duties conducted in the temple 24 hours a day, 365, 7 days a week. And the Most High was not going to afford women to be able to do that. Come on, be on their cycle, the menstrual, for 7 days. And if someone misses the rotation within the temple and the fire goes out, somebody dies, okay? People are going to die. That's the way it was set up. So this is the reason why there were no women in the temple during the time of when there was a temple, because of the state of Niddah that would come every month, okay? So, and this lasted for 7 days, which now most women have a cycle for 7 days. And then after the 7 days, that the cycle, the cycle would go away, and then she would be considered clean. Whoever touches her will be unclean until evening. So whoever touches her will be unclean. It doesn't matter who it is. Whoever touches her will be unclean. Everything she lies on or sits on in her state of Niddah will be unclean. So she sits on a sofa, okay? She sits on a sofa, she considered unclean, okay? So if somebody comes after her and sits on that sofa in the same spot where she sat, they're unclean, okay? They could not come into the temple, all right? So let's see here. Whosoever touches her bed is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. So whoever touches her bed, doesn't matter who it is, all right? A man, in this case, it's mostly referring to the husband, because the husband would be home with her, often. And so that's why you see his clothes, himself, because this is dealing with the husband, okay? He will be unclean until evening. Whoever touches anything she sits on is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. Whether he is on the bed or on something she sits on, when he touches it, okay, he will be unclean until evening. If a man goes to bed with her on her menstrual flow, touches him, and on her menstrual flow touches him, he will be unclean 7 days, and every bed he lies on will be unclean. Now this is very interesting, okay? Now, why would anybody? So obviously somebody's mentality and their mindset is totally unrighteous, because we know during the time of Niddah that women are going through a process where they're cleansing out their bodies. Now, why in the world would any man, but again, during that time, you had some other wicked nations and other wicked people with their mindset that would literally, even today, in today's time, there are some wicked folks out here that when a woman's on her Niddah or in the period of Niddah, they still have a wicked mentality of doing something wicked and foolish, okay? Not even regarding. So the Most High said, listen, not only are you unclean when you touch something she touched, but if you sleep with her and her uncleanliness get on you, everything you touch is now unclean. So it elevates, okay? Now, let's look at this, all right? Now, I want to jump down to Leviticus chapter 15, verse 25 through 27, okay? Because this is where the problem and the issue comes, all right? Now, when you look at Leviticus 15 and 25, notice I have new discussion. Why is that? Because within the same context of the conversation that is being had, a new discussion appears about the same discussion, which means there's a new instruction that's given, even though it's in the context of the same conversation. So when you see this in verse number 25, this is still talking about Niddah, okay? But look at what it says here. If a woman has discharge of blood, which it said the same thing in verse 15, but watch how it escalates. For many days, not during her period, or if her discharge lasts beyond the normal. So here's the thing. We had a new discussion in 19. Now there's another new discussion about her time of Niddah, but this time, if it goes beyond the normal 7 days, okay? If it goes beyond the normal 7 days, because there are some sisters out here who do have cycles that go beyond 7 days. It says here, it says, or if her discharge lasts beyond the normal end of her period, then throughout the time she is having an unclean discharge, she will be as when she is in Niddah, which means that even though it's going beyond that, she still can't, no one can touch her, no one can come near her. I mean, no one can do any of these things, all right? You can't do any of that. As long as she has the discharge of blood, she is still considered in Niddah, okay? She's still considered in Niddah, and you have to treat her as such during the time of Niddah. Now, this is during the time of Israel coming out of Egypt, and a lot of the laws that was given by the Most High to Moses was because of what the things that were occurring in Egypt. So, all right, this is why a lot of the laws, this is Leviticus, all right? Exodus is the previous chapter. So we know that there was some issues that was going on, had several gods, 300 plus gods in Egypt. And so the Torah comes down, given to Moses. And the first thing is, thou should not have no other God before me, because they came out of a place that had multiple gods. So many of these laws that were passed and was given was because of their mindset and mentality and the things that they saw going on in Egypt, all right? So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some type of menstrual activity going on in Egypt during that time, and it probably was considered a sacrifice or something of that nature. And so the Most High said, hey, you're not going to do that and be my people. You're not going to, if a woman's on Niddah, you're not going to be having intercourse with her, all right? That's not going to happen, okay? So let's look at this. In verse number 26, it says, every bed she lies on at any time while she is having her discharge will be for her like the bed she uses during her time of Niddah. And everything she sits on will be unclean with uncleanliness like that of her time of Niddah. Whoever touches those things will be unclean. He is to wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. He will be unclean until evening. Now, continue in verse number 28. Look at what it says. If she has become free of her discharge, she is to count 7 days. After that, she will be clean. Now, I want y'all to pay attention to something here. Most people here fail to realize that verse number 28 is not pertaining to verse 19. It's a totally new instruction under the new discussion. This particular instruction of verse 28 is only associated to the previous verse of verse 25. It's not associated to verse 19, okay? So you cannot use verse 19 and say that, well, the woman is unclean. She have to wait till 7 days after, and then she's unclean. No, the 7 days that she has to wait to be considered clean is during the abnormal time of Niddah. It's not during her normal time. So during her normal time, she have a 7 days, which she's considered unclean, okay? According to Torah, she was considered unclean for 7 days. And so after the 7th day, she's clean. She doesn't have to wait 7 more days, okay? But during this time, if it's an abnormal cycle, all right, as according to verse number 28, then, I'm sorry, according to verse 25, then she is to wait 7 days after she goes off the abnormal cycle. Then she's considered clean, okay? So people don't try to use verse 25 to say that women are unclean because they went off their cycle, and then you got to wait 7 days after that. Now, this is only pertaining to the temple, okay? This is the only, this law was only pertaining to the temple. Now, it's not right in any practical way during the time of Niddah, when women have their cycle even now without a temple, to have any type of intercourse while she's on her Niddah, on her cycle. That is just practically nasty, okay? We're not even talking spiritually nasty. We're talking practically nasty, okay? That's just practically nasty, all right? Nobody in their right mind wants to do that when a woman is cleaning out her body, okay, during that month of, during the month of Niddah, okay? Nobody, this is practically nasty, okay? It's not even talking about spiritually. But for this, when we start talking about the temple itself, during that time when Israel would have a temple, okay, again, this is the reason why that women were not chosen to work in the temple, because they're during the time of Niddah, that she would be considered unclean. And if any man was to touch her during that time, he is considered unclean during that time, okay? So let's move on here and let's look at some more here. All right, so now let's look at this, all right? Let's get some understanding of Niddah, all right? So we're looking at this in Leviticus 15 and 19, okay? Let's do some understanding or breakdown of Niddah. She will be in her state of Niddah for 7 days. 7 days is to be counted at the beginning, all right? I want y'all to pay attention to this. 7 days is to be counted, all right? Or 7 days was to be counted, all right? During the time of Niddah, of her cycle, 7 days was to be counted at the beginning. Verse 19 and verse 25 is 2 different discussions within the same context of Niddah. This is what people fail to realize. Let me say it again for you, okay? Verse 19 and verse 25 have 2 different stipulations, all right? It's not the same stipulation. So verse 19 is to be counted at the beginning of the normal cycle of Niddah. Verse 25 is 7 days at the end of the abnormal cycle of Niddah, okay? This is very important for you to understand. If you don't understand this, you're gonna be in total bondage. And most people, all right, most people go without, that follow this guideline of verse 25 and thinking that verse 25 and 19 is the same conversation or the same instruction, all right, when it comes down to dealing with Niddah. Both, all right, people who keep that in and think that both 19 and 25 is the same thing, oftentimes don't have children. You know why? Because during that time, a woman is fertile after her cycle, okay? But now these mugs, they oh, she gotta wait 7 days, and on the 8th day, then she clean. Well, you done missed a whole span of time of fertilization, and that's why most folks can't have children, okay? Or most folks are missing it because they sitting around here and they following this other, but I'm gonna show you where they follow. I'm gonna show you what they follow, all right? I'm gonna show you what they follow. It's not Bible, okay? I'm gonna show you what they follow, all right? But let's look at this real quick, all right? They're following the Talmud. That's what they following, okay? They're following Talmudic law of Niddah, all right? they are not following the law that was given to Moses, okay, according to Niddah, with the normal cycle in verse 19 and the abnormal cycle in verse 25. What the rabbinical Talmudic rabbis did, they took 25 and they applied it to the entire menstrual. And now everyone that's within the Jewish community, many of them, I'm not gonna say everyone, but many of them, a large amount of them follow the Talmudic law of Niddah. And so what happens is, no matter if a woman is on a normal cycle, they say she's not clean until 7 days after she goes off, okay? This is not found in scripture. It's only obtained when applied to the abnormal situation of Niddah. It's not the same thing, okay? They're under the wrong thing. And this is sad because we have so many people out here teaching and they don't understand. They think they're teaching the law of Moshe, but they're actually teaching the law of the rabbis, the law of the Mishnah, or the Talmudic laws, or the instructions of the rabbis. That's pretty much what they're doing. And they fail to realize and understand that. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's read this. All right, let's read this. So in Talmudic law of Niddah, let's look at this. The Old Testament stipulates a woman is unclean during menstruation, but the Talmud stipulates her period of uncleanness lasts for an additional week after the menstrual has ended. Now, we just read Leviticus 15 and 19, and according to the normal, okay, according to the normal cycle, it is to be counted 7 days, all right, at the beginning. So soon as her cycle comes on, she enters Niddah, you count 7 days. And generally, at the 7th day, the Niddah is done or is ended, and the 8th day, she's clean. The abnormal is 7 days after. And so if her period goes beyond, all right, 7 days, then you have to wait for 7 days after it's off, the abnormal, count 7 days, and on the 8th day, she's clean. What the rabbinicals did, they took verse 25 and they applied it to the whole Leviticus 15 and added their own commentary to it and spent it. And now they got a whole nother understanding, a whole nother teaching of what's going on when it comes down to the time of Niddah. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's read. All right, Niddah is the word used to denote the menstruating woman and her period of uncleanliness. The Niddah defiles everyone and everything she touches. She may not have sexual intercourse with her husband. If she does, he is subject to arrest and perhaps a death penalty. Now, we didn't read that, okay? All right, we didn't read that, but let's keep on. We didn't read that in what we just read in Leviticus 15, okay? But let's keep reading. Some Niddah laws apply to Gentile women as well, or too. In his instruction of Tractate Niddah, Reverend Dr. Israel, all right, W. Slotsky states, chapter 4 is concerned with the condition of uncleanliness of non-Jewish women, such as Samaritans, Sadduceans, and idolaters. All right, now let's go into the Jewish Encyclopedia and let's read in the Jewish Encyclopedia. All right. Let's look at this. In either case, she is unclean for 7 days only. In either case, she is unclean for 7 days only. But during this time, her defilement is communicated to every object with which she comes in contact. These laws, however, have been extended in many ways and made more onerous, both by rabbinical traditions and interpretations and by customs which have been adopted by Jewish women themselves. All right. According to these more rigid requirements, listen to this, more rigid requirements, the women or the woman must reckon 7 days after determination of the period. If then this last 7 days, all right, she cannot become pure until 15 days. Now, this is for abnormal, but they've applied it to even when it's a normal period. And that's not even the instruction of the Most High. The Most High laid out the instructions clear. In verse 19, normal menstrual Niddah. Okay, normal cycle during the time of Niddah. Laid it out plain and clear. Okay. It's 7 days. Okay. When the normal time, it starts. After 7 days, if it goes beyond the 7 days, then you have to wait. Then they were supposed to wait 7 days, and then we have to wait 7 days. After that, after her abnormal, to be considered unclean. Okay. But the rabbinicals, they took and just applied it to everything, and then started adding more on top of it. They didn't just stop there. They just started adding all kind of extra stuff on top of it to even make it even worse of a burden. Okay. And it's not supposed to be such. All right. It's simple instructions. It's not too hard. It's not out of your grasp to reach. It is simple instructions that the Most High is given. Okay. So let's look at this. Purification, furthermore, can be gained only by ritual bath. Listen to this. Purification, furthermore, can be gained only by ritual bath. All right. Now let's keep seeing the mitwa, okay, or midway. And until the woman has taken this, she remains unclean according to interpretation of R. Akiba, Sabbath 64b. This is in the Talmud or the Mishnah. Okay. This is not in the Torah. I want y'all to look at what it says here. And until the woman have taken this bath, she remains unclean. So even after the abnormal, not during the abnormal time, it says you have to wait 7 days, and then she's clean on the 8th day. They said even after the 7 days, if she don't take this special bath, which will probably be administered by the rabbi, and I wonder what kind of special bath that is, she's still not clean. She's still not clean. Okay, now let's look at this. Which was accepted by the rabbis generally. See that? I want y'all to pay attention to this. All right. This purification, furthermore, can be gained only by the ritual bath. And until the woman has taken this, she remains unclean, not according to Torah, not according to the Most High, not according to what was given to Moses, but the interpretation of Rabbi Akiba, okay, which was accepted by the rabbis generally. In addition to all this, a woman who does not ministrate regularly is unclean for a certain time before she becomes aware that the period has begun, and objects which she touches are defiled, since there is danger that the menses may have begun a short time before, and that she may not have perceived the fact. Okay, let's keep reading. Now, let's deal with this here. All right, let's do translator, Reverend Dr. Israel Slotky. All right, let's look at this. Tractate Niddah, which comes 7th in the Mishnah edition of the Order of Tehoratha, is placed first in the editions of the Talmud, since it is the only tractate in this order which consists of Gemara as well as Mishnah. The term Niddah is applied in biblical and rabbinical literature to a woman in ministration who, by reason of her uncleanliness, is subject to certain restrictions during her periods and for a varying number of days subsequently. The origin of these regulations is Leviticus, all right, 15, verse 19, which prescribes some general rules concerning Niddah and Zebah. those enactments have been expounded and amplified in accordance with rabbinical methods. I want y'all to read, I'm gonna read that again for you in case you missed it. Listen to what it says. These enactments, based on Leviticus 15 and 19, these enactments have been expounded and amplified in accordance with rabbinical methods, not in accordance to biblical methods, rabbinical methods of interpretations and traditions, okay, and have been made still more onerous by the strict custom adopted by Jewish women themselves. All right, so let's keep on rolling here. We're gonna keep it. So many of you out there, y'all following this, y'all don't be sitting up here talking about trying to bang on Jewish folks and y'all following the same thing. And many of y'all probably following it because y'all don't know, because y'all haven't learned, y'all haven't read, y'all haven't studied. And not only that, you following what your partner who you have Bible study with, and he don't know because he learned from somebody else on YouTube, and it just the error keeps continuing and going and causes a vicious cycle. And you sitting around here leading people astray. This is the very reason why, man, everybody was not a priest in the temple. Everybody even of the Levites wasn't just up in the temple doing this stuff right here and teach. You wasn't just gonna walk up in no place, okay, and somebody gonna give you a scroll and you just turn around and start reading in ancient Israel. It ain't happening. It was not happening. Folks was qualified, okay? These folks were qualified. These folks were qualified of their peers, okay? Even, I'm talking before the Babylonian captivity, all right? Before the whole Pharisees and all that came on the scene, even with the Pharisees, even some of the errors, they still made sure folks was qualified, okay? That's why when I hear y'all talking crazy and reckless about Paul, I be like, man, Paul was more qualified in the Torah than any of us, okay? Than any of us, okay? And so we have to make sure that we understand and really study this thing and really get an understanding. So let's read here. Let's look at 10 chapters of tractate summary. So we're just gonna go over a summary of the tractates, okay, within the Mishnah, dealing with the Niddah, okay? And so let's read here. Chapter 1 describes the factors that determine the length of the periods of uncleanness in various classes of women, particularly with reference to the retroactive effective of the uncleanness. Chapter 2 of the tractate in Mishnah, okay, states the test which establishes the beginning of the menstrual period and indicates which colors of discharge are clean and which are unclean. Now, the scriptures don't go into dealing with you thoroughly examining what color it is and all that kind of stuff. Hey, listen, man, there ain't nobody trying to get that close and do all that kind of stuff. The Most High is not around here having you looking at the colors of what color, how deep, how red it is, and how not red. Ain't no, man, nobody doing that, man. Nobody doing it. But guess what? You got some people running around here who are doing that junk, man. You got some, let me tell you something. We don't even have a temple. Let me tell you, we don't even have a temple. All right, and we aren't even in our land, and there are people checking sisters coming to Shabbat and seeing if they own their cycle. What kind of foolishness is this? What kind of foolishness is this, man? What are we doing? What are we doing? Yo, sister, you on your cycle, sister. So we need to check to make sure you on your, you're not on your cycle. So you can't come in because you are considered unclean. So I guess the Ruach and the Holy Spirit for 7 days have fled from that sister when it's time for her Niddah. When it's time for her menses, I guess the Holy Spirit say, I'm up out of here. He flee her body once a month for 7 days. I guess that's what happened. Because if y'all are saying she unclean, she can't come in the temple, and we have become the temple, that means the Ruach done flee from her for 7 days. And he don't come back to his crib till the 8th day. I guess that's what we're saying. I guess that's what we're saying now. I guess that's what we're saying, y'all. I guess it's what, this stuff here crazy, man. This stuff is crazy. This stuff y'all doing out here, y'all wilding out, man. Y'all wilding out. Y'all wilding out, man. Y'all wilding out. I mean, come on. You got people, you got sisters that are not even getting baptized. Like, where is that in Torah? And where is that even in the Brit Hadashah? Where's that in the New Testament that say a woman cannot be baptized on her menses because she is unclean? I need y'all to find that for me. Unless you following the Mishnah. See, don't be sitting around here talking about you true Israel, but you following the Mishnah on that type of foolishness. Now, I'm telling you, when I hear this stuff, I'm really starting to realize that some of y'all folk, y'all Israel, y'all suspect on some things, man. Some of y'all is really running around here following a lot of these Talmudic teachings and things like that. A sister can't be baptized. I mean, come on. So here's the thing. If that, and I want to put this out here for y'all brothers who doing this madness, okay? That's calling yourself priests in Israel, okay? You doing this type of madness, if that sister, you better pray that the Most High Yah don't allow that sister to lose her life in the same day or the next day because her blood on your hands, her blood on your hands, because you turned around and rejected her from baptism when she has become the temple, when we have become the temple. We no longer have a physical temple, and you rejecting that sister from baptism. You forbidding sisters from coming into the assembly, being amongst the sisters. I need y'all to find that, because y'all obviously, if y'all might as well go back to sacrificing animals. You might as well go back to sacrificing animals. Oh, well, she can't come in the temple, she unclean. And then you read doggone, we're gonna get into that in a minute. We're gonna get into the reason why she shouldn't come to the temple. We're gonna get into the reason why you shouldn't come to the temple. And this is the foolishness we got going on here. This don't make no sense. Chapter number 5 deals with the uncleanness of a woman whose child was delivered by a cesarean section, by a cesarean or a C-section. All right. It indicates also the signs of puberty or puberty in both sexes, determining their symptoms and the times of their appearance. Chapter 6 gives further details on the signs of puberty in the female. In this connection, the rule is evolved that on the appearance of a particular symptom, the other are assumed to exit, whereas the converse is not true. This terse rule is illustrated by a number of diverse topics where, likewise, it is seen that one condition or fact implies another, but not vice versa. Chapter 7 discusses the uncleanness of menstrual blood and other impurities. It also states the circumstance and to what extent Samaritans are believed in regard to uncleanliness. Chapter number 8 through 10 indicates, chapter 8 through 10 indicates the test to be applied to decide whether a stain is that of menstrual blood or of some other matter. Describe the symptoms of the approach of the menstrual period and deal finally with the condition of uncleanness of the corpse of the menstrual. All right, so let's see here, man. This stuff is wild, man. I can't believe we out here wilding out like this. Verse number 31 in Leviticus 15 sums up the entire chapter of Leviticus 15, okay? Thus you shall separate the Israelites from their uncleanness, so that they do not die in their uncleanness by their defiling my tabernacle that is among them. Notice, listen what it says. I want y'all to pay attention to this. The whole point, okay, for you not to touch this woman is for your behind not to come to the temple when we had a temple, okay, when we had Levitical priests that were conducting sacrifices and conducting all this. But when Yeshua HaMashiach came, he gave all of us, no matter what tribe, we became a nation of kings, a nation of priests. Didn't matter what tribe you were from now. Now you become a priest, okay? But during that time, you had the Levites that were set aside and set apart to be priests. So here's the thing. If your behind touch your wife, brush up against her, and you come to the temple, you unclean. Guess what? Your behind gonna drop dead. So the Most High, the whole point for this law was to make sure that Israel didn't kill themselves going to the temple, because the temple was amongst Israel. It was an outside thing where the Most High dwelled in the place and had the holies of holies. It was a place where his presence rested, all right? It was a place where his presence rested. So the whole point for you not to go to the temple during the time of a menses or during the time of Niddah was so you would not die and you would not defile the tabernacle that is among Israel. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. And y'all think that the temple then is the same temple that y'all got right now. Listen, where you go meet at, where you have Shabbat at, that ain't the same setup and that ain't the same temple, all right, that ancient Israel had. That ain't the first temple design. That ain't even the second temple design. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you think that you got the same temple that we had in the first and the second, you sadly mistaken, because ain't none of y'all jokers got no fire burning in there. Let's get all the way real about this. Ain't none of y'all got no fire burnt in there. Y'all ain't got no doggone smoke burning. Y'all ain't got none of the requirements that the temple had in y'all spot. In your spot. You don't have no, let's just start with the fire. I ain't even gonna go into all the other things that was in the temple. You don't have fire burning, bro. And you don't have nobody in the temple 24/7. You don't have nobody in the temple 24/7. You show up at Shabbat, have Shabbat service about 3 or 4 hours, or maybe have it for about 8 hours, and you go home. You ain't in there on Sunday. You ain't in there on Monday. Some of y'all might be in there on Tuesday, might be in there on Wednesday. You might be in there 2 days a week out of the whole week. Ain't nobody in y'all temple in there 24/7 burning no fire. So you don't have the same temple that we had in the first and second century, and first and second temple. So let's stop this madness. So if you don't have the same requirements and the same setup, then why are you checking sisters? Why are you checking sisters? I'm just trying to, why are you checking sisters? You don't have the same setup. Come on, let's finish up here, man. Let's finish up. Now let's look at this. See, the reason why this verse is so important, because in verse 31 of chapter number 1, the reason why it's so important is because the Most High don't want you coming to his temple any kind of way. The Most High don't want you coming to him for any kind of thing. Do you know that there's certain conversations you shouldn't even be having when you come to the Most High? When you acknowledging him for who he is. He don't want you coming to him with no mess. Now let's look at this. This is the reason why. He did not want no uncleanliness and no mess showing up in the temple. I don't know why. Y'all, and here's the thing. This is the thing that tripped me out. Half of the mess that y'all bring into the temple. You bringing gossip to the temple. You bringing a stony heart to the temple. You bringing an attitude to the temple. Only y'all doing all this other mess. This don't make no sense. You bringing this to come worship with your other brothers and sisters. So if you bringing it with you, that means your inner temple got problems. If you bringing it to the outer temple, if you bringing madness to the outer temple, you got madness going on in the inner temple. That's just hands down what it is. You say what you want to say, get mad all you want. I don't care. That's what you got going on. That's what you got going on. Leviticus 16 and verse number 1. Let's look at this here. All right. Then the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of his two sons, the death of the two sons of Aaron who had died when they irreverently approached the presence of the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, well, say, listen, let me see, y'all come see, Aaron, your two sons done came up in here any kind of way. I had to kill them. I had to kill them for coming here any kind of way. So Moses, let me help y'all out because y'all act like y'all don't understand that y'all don't need to be coming to me any kind of way. Okay, let me make sure I deal with this, all right? Listen, Moses, you need to tell Aaron, tell your brother Aaron that he must not enter at any time in the holy place inside the veil, the holies of holies, before the mercy seat, which is on the ark, or he will die. For I will appear in the cloud of the mercy seat. Aaron, as high priest, shall enter the holy place in this way, with the blood of a young bull as a sin offering, and the blood of a ram as a burnt offering. Look at this, man. Clear instructions. All right. So now let's look at this. Now I want to show y'all in Acts chapter number 21, 24 through 26. Paul purified himself. Now this is after the ascension of Christ. After the ascension of Yeshua, they still got a temple. They still got temples around there. Places of worship. After Yeshua ascended, they still got temples. They still got priests. They still got priests working in the temple. And guess what? Paul did not go to the temple any kind of way. He purified himself after going out there doing work around all these Gentiles and all these heathens, okay? And all these Gentiles and heathens with all the other wicked gods witnessing to them and testifying to them about the goodness of Yeshua and the saving grace of Yeshua and all these other things. He went out there dealing with all these people and he had a Nazarite vow on him. But guess what he did? Before he went to the temple, he purified himself. He purified himself and made sure he didn't just go approach the Most High any kind of way, okay? So let's look at what it says here. All right, Acts 21, verse 24 through 26. Take these men and purify yourselves along with them and pay their expenses for the temple offering so that they may shave their heads. Then everyone will know that there is nothing to the things they have been told about you. Why? Because Paul was being accused of teaching against the law and all these things. He had a Nazarite vow on him. And so before him and four other guys had a Nazarite vow on them. And so they say, listen, Paul, listen, you need to go go to the priest. Before you go to the priest, you got to purify yourself to prove to the people and let the people know you're not teaching against the Torah. Okay. It says right here, but that you yourself also keep the law. You not only follow and keep the law. All right. But with regards to the Gentiles who have believed in Christ, we have sent them a letter with our decision that they should abstain from meat and sacrifice to idols, all right, and from consuming blood and from the meat of which has been strangled and from sexual immorality. Now, I want y'all to pay attention to something. Notice that they told Paul, listen, we're gonna deal with this question about the Gentiles. All right. So we have decided and agreed that these are the things that the Gentiles should be doing. But guess what? They didn't give Paul that same thing. They told Paul, you need to go continue to go with the Nazirite vow, purify yourself so you can prove to the people that you keeping the law. But them Gentiles, we're going to write a letter to them to tell them what they had to keep. Notice, they didn't give Paul the same instruction that they gave to the Gentiles. They told Paul, you need to go do what the law say do. But then they turned around and told Paul, we got a letter for the Gentiles and what they need to do. So guess what? We need to stop all this madness. Okay, stop all this madness. Let's read here so we can get up out of here. Then Paul took the 4 men, and the next day he purified himself. Paul didn't argue with him. He purified himself according to the law, because he know the law. Purified himself along with them, but submitting to rituals. By submitting to rituals. Listen to what it says. By submitting to rituals. That is under the law that was given to Moses, according to Numbers chapter number 6. That was according to Numbers chapter number 6. He went into the temple to give notice of the time when the days of purification, ending each vow, would be fulfilled, all right? And the usual offering could be present on behalf of each man. Now, this offering that was given on behalf of each man, this wasn't no money. This wasn't no money offering. You know what this offering was? This was an offering. This was a burnt offering and a blood offering, which means he had to present for part of the purification process, shave his head, but not only shave his head, but come with an animal sacrifice, okay, for the remissions of sin and an animal sacrifice for a burnt offering. Okay, so guess what? It was still blood being shed because he was a part of to go towards the Nazirite vow to be took. There still had to be shedding of blood for the remission of sin. Okay, this is not the same thing as a Pesach. Okay, this is not the same thing. All right, and we know that after Yeshua shed his blood, we know that that was the ultimate sacrifice. But this particular sacrifice is under the Nazirite vow that's according to the law and the customs. Okay, if anyone takes a Nazirite vow, and which they did, it was him and 4 other people that present an offering, a burnt offering and one for blood. Okay, all right, now let's read Numbers chapter number 6. Okay, Numbers chapter number 6, verse number 1. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, say to the sons of Israel, when a man or woman, see, this is not just for men, this is also for women, makes a vow, special vow, the vow of a Nazirite, that is, one separated and dedicated to the Lord, he shall abstain from wine and strong drink. He or she shall drink no vinegar, whether made from wine or strong drink, nor shall he or she drink any grape juice, nor eat fresh or dried grapes. All the time of his or her separation, he or she shall not eat anything produced from the grapevine, from the seeds even to the skins. Verse 5, all right. All the time of the vow of his separation, no razor shall be used on his head until the time of his separation to the Lord is complete. He shall be holy and shall let the hair of his or her hair on their head grow long. All the time that he or she separates himself or herself to the Lord, he or she shall not go near a dead body. He shall not make himself ceremonially unclean. This is what happened during the time when we was reading about Niddah. When you touch a woman that's on her cycle, you are ceremonially unclean, which means you cannot come to the temple, okay? Because you are ceremonially unclean. That's what ceremony means. You can't come to the temple, okay? Ceremonially unclean to his or his father, mother, brother, or sister when they die, because the responsibility for his separation of Yah is on his head. All the time of his separation, he is holy, he is holy, or she is holy to the Lord. If a man dies very suddenly besides him and he defiles his dedicated head, all right, then he shall shave his head on the day that he becomes ceremonially unclean. Or I'm sorry, ceremonially clean. He shall shave it on the 7th day. All right, this is same kind of the same instructions when it comes down to dealing with the menses. All right, the end of the purification period. On the 8th day, he shall bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons to the priest to the doorway of the tent of meeting of the tabernacle. The priest shall offer the one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, and make atonement for his concerning his sin because of the dead body. Now that's dealing with a person who came in contact with a dead body. All right. Now let's deal with this here. Let's close here. Now here's a new discussion. That was dealing with a person that came in contact with a dead body that had a Nazarite. Now let's deal with someone who did not come in contact with a dead body. There's instructions given to that. So there's a new instruction within the same context of the Nazarite law. Okay, let's look at it. Numbers chapter number 6:13. Now this is the law of the Nazarite when the days of separation and dedication are fulfilled. He shall bring the offering to the doorway of the tent of meeting. The same thing that a person came in contact with a dead body has to do. And he shall offer the gift of the Lord, 1 male lamb a year old without blemish as a burnt offering, and 1 female lamb a year old without blemish as a sin offering, and 1 ram without blemish as a peace offering, and a basket of unleavened bread, cake of fine flour mixed with oil, and wafer of unleavened bread spread with oil, along with their grain offering and their drink offering. Then the priest shall present them before the Lord and shall offer the person's sin offering and his burnt offering. Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I pray that this lesson really helped you, man. I'm just, it's really sad, but it's a much needed lesson. I pray that this really helped you, man. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. I hope this lesson helped you. I hope it edified you. And please, hey man, listen, if you're on YouTube, share it with someone, please. All right. If you're on Facebook, share it with someone, please, that may be kind of confused, maybe caught in some things they just don't know, may need understanding. Share it with them. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube, youtube.com/It's Majors and the number 1. Or you can go in the description, click the subscribe link, and follow me, and make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the bell to be notified when we go live. Also, don't forget, you're looking for a Boom Church, looking for someone to fellowship, you can hit us up on the email at BOOMCHURCHINT, that's BOOMCHURCHINT @gmail.com. Until next time, man, I love all y'all with the love of Yeshua. Be blessed and shalom.